What happens when the man who built the company from scratch walks into his own dealership and no one knows who he is? Trevor Jennings stood under the buzzing fluorescent lights of a rental office in Omaha, Nebraska, flipping through a fake resume he'd printed that morning. His beard was thicker than usual, hair dyed a few shades darker, glasses he didn't need perched on his nose. He went by Tom Jacobs today. It was a decent disguise, and no one at this store had ever met him. Even the district manager had only seen him once, during a video meeting 2 years ago. 14 stores. That's how far his business had grown over the past 17 years. Used to be he sold his first car out of his cousin's driveway. Now he had dealerships in 5 states. But lately complaints had been rising, not about prices or stock that was normal. These were different. He had heard about a customer crying in the parking lot after being sold a certified car that broke down 2 days later. Another review mentioned a salesman refusing to speak to a woman unless her husband was there. And just last week, one of his best mechanics from the Kansas City location texted him privately. "Something's off at the Omaha store. Cars are going out too fast. Doesn't feel right." He'd sent emails, gotten vague replies. "All inspection paperwork is in order," the manager wrote. "We're running lean but hitting targets." That's when Trevor had decided to see it himself. The Omaha branch was a mid-sized lot with a modest showroom, nothing flashy but enough. When he walked in, no one greeted him. A group of 3 salesmen huddled by the coffee machine, laughing about something on a phone. After an awkward minute, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a tired smile approached. "You must be the new guy. Tom, right?" she asked. "I'm Kate. I do admin and make sure this place doesn't fall apart." Trevor nodded. "Thanks for having me." "You'll be shadowing Josh today," she said, already walking off. "Sales floor, he's something." Josh turned out to be a tall guy in his early 30s with expensive shoes and a Bluetooth earpiece permanently in. His handshake was limp. "Cool, another green one," he mumbled. "You sell before?" "A little," Trevor lied. "Family dealership back home." Josh didn't care. "Just watch today. Don't talk during my pitch." For the next 3 hours, Trevor followed him through 4 test drives and 2 closings. What struck him wasn't Josh's aggressive pitch, it was the complete lack of mention of inspections, history reports, or safety. On the 3rd sale, a young woman named Kelly, probably early 20s, pointed at a Honda Civic and asked, "Has this been checked over?" "My dad said to make sure it's all inspected." Josh didn't skip a beat. "Of course, certified pre-owned." He winked at Trevor as they walked back to the office. There was no sticker. No inspection sheet on the dash, and when Trevor glanced at the file on the desk, it had a blank space where the technician's sign-off should have been. After the customer left with her keys, Trevor asked, "Hey, where's the inspection paperwork?" Josh shrugged. "You don't need to worry about that. Manager signs off. We move metal, that's the job." That night, Trevor ate alone in a motel room and stared at the ceiling. He called his wife but didn't tell her much. "It's worse than I thought," was all he said. The next morning, he reported to the service bay. "Tom Jacobs, trainee," he told the crew chief, a wiry man named Dale who had grease under every fingernail and a limp in his walk. Dale looked him over. "You're not gonna last long," he said, then pointed to a clipboard. "Start by logging the VINs. Then we'll see if you can handle brake checks." It didn't take long to see why the bay was so disorganized. Only 2 techs worked full-time, Dale and a young guy named Hector who looked barely 20. "Where's the rest of the team?" Trevor asked as they worked. "They quit," Hector muttered. "No benefits, no overtime pay, just Dale and me now. We can't keep up." Trevor watched Dale check a truck's alternator. "This one's not safe yet," Dale said, "but it's going out this afternoon." "What?" Dale nodded toward the office. "Manager said it's sold. Wants it off the lot before the weekend." "You okay with that?" Trevor asked. Dale wiped sweat from his forehead. "I hate it, but if I push back, he threatens to replace me, and I got a kid in college. I'm just trying to hold on." That same day, Trevor saw it happen again. A Ford Escape rolled in, oil leak obvious. It was barely on the lift before Josh appeared. Hey Dale, Josh called. This one's sold, remember, just put a sticker on it. We haven't even, don't care, get it done. Dale looked at Trevor, then back at the car. He sighed and walked away. Trevor's chest burned. He didn't sleep that night. He wrote down everything: names, VINs, dates. The next morning, he went back to the showroom, this time to shadow the manager. Greg was in his 40s, thick-necked, loud, and proud of his "no excuses" wall plaque. "You want to run a floor like this," Greg said. "You gotta push. These people want handouts, customers lie, techs drag their feet, I keep things moving." Trevor stayed silent, just listened. Watched. At noon, a middle-aged black man walked in with his teenage son. They asked to see a car they had called about. Greg met them personally. "Yeah, we had it yesterday, but it's gone now," he said flatly. Trevor knew that wasn't true. The car was still on the lot. He saw it that morning during inventory. The man frowned. "Your guy said it was here. Look, maybe next time," Greg cut him off. "We're slammed." As the father and son walked out, Trevor stood frozen. Greg turned to him. Some people just waste time, that was it. Trevor couldn't do this any longer. He left the office quietly and sat in his car, staring at the steering wheel. Tomorrow, he'd drop the act. But not quietly. The next morning, Trevor parked in the same spot at the edge of the lot, but this time, there was no hesitation. He walked through the showroom doors with his chin up, not as Tom Jacobs, the trainee, but as the owner of Jennings Auto Group. Inside, the usual noise of ringing phones and muffled sales chatter filled the air. Greg was in his office, hunched over his desk, tapping away on a laptop. He didn't look up when Trevor knocked. "Yeah, what do you need?" Greg said without turning. Trevor stepped in and closed the door behind him. "You're going to want to put that away." Greg finally glanced up, irritated. "What?" "I'm Trevor Jennings. I own this company." Greg blinked. He didn't move. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. The silence hung for several seconds before he finally stood. "Wait, what? You're Jennings?" Trevor nodded once. "We'll talk in the showroom." Greg followed him out, stiff-legged and pale. By then, a few employees had noticed something was off. Kate stood near the break room doorway, arms folded. Josh leaned against a desk, phone still in hand. Dale had just walked in from the service bay, wiping his hands on a rag. He froze when he saw Trevor. Trevor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I've been here for 3 days," he said, addressing the room. "Not as myself, but as someone looking for the truth, and I found it." No one spoke. The silence was total. "I've seen vehicles sold without proper inspections. I've seen staff pressured to skip safety checks. I've seen customers lied to, ignored, or pushed out the door based on how they look. That ends now." He turned to Josh. "You told customers their cars were certified when they weren't. You ignored legitimate safety concerns. You pressured service staff to sign off on incomplete work." Josh straightened up. "Look, I was just doing what I was told." Greg said, "You had a choice," Trevor interrupted. "And you chose to lie. You're done here. Effective immediately." Josh's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He walked out, phone still in hand, without a word. Trevor then looked at Greg, who had gone red in the face. "You've created a culture of deception and intimidation. You used fear to meet targets and pushed good employees out the door. You let vehicles leave this lot in unsafe condition. You're fired." Kate quietly stepped aside as Greg stormed past her, muttering something under his breath. Trevor waited until the front door swung shut behind him before turning back to the others. "Anyone else who's not willing to put safety and honesty ahead of numbers should leave now." No one moved. He exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders for the first time in days. "Good. Let's talk about what happens next." They gathered in the break room: Kate, Dale, Hector, a receptionist named Marisol, and a sales associate named Clara. Trevor had seen both Clara and Marisol working quietly, handling customers with patience even when ignored by the others. "First," Trevor said, "this store is getting a full audit. Every vehicle that hasn't been through a complete inspection will be pulled from the lot until it's properly cleared. No exceptions." Dale nodded. "We'll need time. We're behind, way behind, I know," Trevor said. "And we're going to fix that. but I'm not going to ask you to do it alone." He turned to Kate. "You said earlier you were keeping this place from falling apart. I believe you. I need your help stabilizing the front of house while we bring in temporary support." Kate gave a slow nod, her voice soft. "We've been treading water for a while. I didn't know how bad it was in the bay." "Hector," Trevor said, "you've been holding things together back there. I saw it. You've got a good head on your shoulders, but I also saw you doing the work of 2 or 3 people." Hector glanced at Dale, unsure. Trevor continued, "You're not going to do that anymore. We're bringing in 2 more certified techs this week on rotation from Kansas City and Des Moines. Long term, we'll hire locally." Dale leaned forward slightly. "You're serious about change." "I'm serious enough to shut this whole place down if it doesn't happen." Clara, who had been quiet until now, raised her hand. "What about sales? We've got customers waiting on deliveries." "Some of them were promised things we can't give. We're going to contact every customer who bought a vehicle in the last 30 days, Trevor said. "If their car skipped a proper inspection, we'll offer a free full review and cover any necessary repairs. If they want to return the vehicle, we'll allow it, no questions asked." Kate's eyes widened. "That's going to cost us." "It'll cost more if we don't," Trevor replied. After the meeting, Trevor spent the afternoon in the service bay, not supervising, just listening. Dale and Hector worked more freely now, no longer rushing jobs under pressure. When one of the Kansas City techs, a woman named Tasha, arrived with her tools, she immediately joined them on the Civic that had been sold under false pretenses. The customer hadn't even left the state, yet Trevor had called her personally and arranged for a full inspection and hotel stay while they fixed the issue. Meanwhile, Clara and Marisol handled the front desk. With Josh and Greg gone, the atmosphere had changed. Customers weren't being pushed toward the most expensive option. Clara took time explaining financing to a young couple who'd walked in unsure. Marisol followed up with a family whose SUV had been delayed, offering a loaner vehicle at no cost. Later that evening, Trevor sat with Kate in the office. She had pulled out a manila folder filled with notes: staff performance, missed inspections, even a few complaints she had tried to escalate but never got replies to. "I should have said more," she admitted. "You said enough today," Trevor said. "You're staying on." "Effective immediately, you're interim general manager." She blinked. "Me, you've been keeping this place functional without ever crossing the line. I need that kind of leadership right now." She smiled just a little. "You really think we can turn it around?" "I know we can." That night, Trevor didn't go back to the motel. He stayed late, helping restack service orders with Dale and Hector. The lot was quiet, the sky turning from orange to deep blue. No noise from the showroom, no pressure from above. Just the sound of tools and honest work. For the first time in weeks, Trevor felt like he was building something again, not just a business, but a place worth being proud of. By the end of the week, Trevor knew the dealership wasn't just broken, it had been rotting from the inside for a long time. The inspection backlog had swelled into a full-blown crisis. Dale, Hector, and Tasha were working 10-hour shifts just to catch up on vehicles that had already been sold but hadn't cleared safety. 2 more techs would be arriving from Des Moines in a few days, but until then the service bay was stretched thin. Despite that, none of them complained. Not once each morning, Trevor arrived early, not to supervise but to work. He helped rotate tires, logged inspection sheets, and handled parts deliveries when the counter guy was late. He wanted to be in it, see it, feel it, know it. The customers were coming back too. Some cautiously, others angrily. A woman named Nadine had driven in from Lincoln because her son's car, bought 2 weeks prior, had already seized up on the highway. The invoice claimed it had passed a full inspection. Tasha found a cracked timing belt and a dangerously worn coolant hose within 10 minutes. Trevor met Nadine in the waiting area and explained what had happened and what they were doing to fix it. She listened, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "Are you one of the new managers or something?" she asked. "No," Trevor said. "I'm the owner." She stared at him, unsure if he was joking. "Why are you back here then?" she asked. "Shouldn't you be in a suit somewhere?" He shook his head. "I should have been here a long time ago." She didn't smile, but her voice softened slightly. "Then don't leave again." By the weekend, the atmosphere had shifted. Customers were being told the truth up front, even when it wasn't what they wanted to hear. Clara had started printing out full inspection reports and walking buyers through them before they signed anything. Marisol had reorganized the customer follow-up schedule, calling every person who had left a complaint in the last 60 days. But not everything was improving. Trevor noticed a pattern with one of the newer hires on the sales floor, Reed. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with a clean haircut and a loud way of speaking that carried across the showroom. At first, Trevor thought he was just energetic, eager to prove himself. Then he overheard a conversation. A couple in their late 60s had walked in asking for something reliable and simple, no touchscreen, no turbo, no extras. Reed had nodded along, then led them straight to a heavily modified crossover with a dealer-added warranty package and a markup that made Trevor pause from across the room. "This one's perfect," Reed said. "And with the protection plan, you won't have to worry about a thing for the next 5 years." The man asked if the warranty was optional. Reed's voice didn't waver. "It's bundled in. All our vehicles come with it." That was a lie. Trevor stepped in before the couple signed anything. "Actually, that's not true," he said. "You can absolutely purchase this vehicle without the warranty. It's your choice." Reed blinked. "Oh, I thought it was part of the package on this one." Trevor didn't respond. He turned to the couple and walked them through a different vehicle on the lot, one that fit their budget and hadn't even been shown. After they left, he pulled Reed into the back hallway. "Why did you tell them the warranty was required?" "I figured it'd help close the deal," Reed said. "It's not like it's a bad thing to have it." "That's not the point," Trevor said. "You gave them false information. That's not a mistake, that's pressure selling." Reed looked down for the first time. "I didn't mean to." "I'm not firing you," Trevor said, "but you're off the floor for 3 days. Training and customer handling review. If I hear anything like that again, you won't be coming back." Reed nodded quietly this time. That same afternoon, another issue surfaced, this time in the service bay. One of the Des Moines techs, Leon, had arrived earlier than expected. He was skilled, no question, but something felt off. He was curt with Hector, short with Tasha, and didn't bother to learn anyone's names. At first, Trevor chalked it up to fatigue. The guy had driven 4 hours and jumped straight into work. But during a brake replacement on a Dodge Ram, Leon snapped at Hector for handing him the wrong socket. "Can you not read sizes?" he said. "Or is that too much for you to handle?" Hector froze mid-step. Tasha looked up from across the bay. "Watch it." Leon didn't apologize. He kept working, not even glancing up. Trevor waited until the job was done before pulling him aside. "I appreciate you coming down," he said, "but that kind of talk won't fly here." Leon shrugged. "I didn't mean anything by it." Trevor didn't blink. "That's not good enough." "You're done here." Leon's face went blank. "You're firing me over a comment?" "No," Trevor said. "I'm sending you back to Des Moines because this team works together, and if you can't respect that, you don't belong here." Leon set his tools down slowly, then walked out without another word. Later that evening, Trevor found Hector outside by the loading dock, sipping from a sports bottle and staring at the horizon. "You okay?" Trevor asked. Hector nodded. "It's not the first time someone's talked to me like that, just didn't expect it here." "It won't happen again," Trevor said. Hector looked at him for a long moment. "Thanks." At closing time, Clara approached Trevor with a folder tucked under her arm. "I've been going through our pending leads," she said. "Most of these people never got follow-ups. Some even called twice and still didn't get a return." Trevor flipped through the names. There were dozens. "Can we handle all this?" he asked. Clara nodded. "If we split the list, maybe, but we need someone focused on this full-time." Trevor tapped the folder. "You just volunteered," Clara blinked. "Wait, you mean make this my job? You've got a good eye for detail and you listen. That's what we need right now." Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing for a few seconds. "I'll make it work," she said. By the time the showroom lights dimmed that night, the dealership wasn't perfect, but it was real. There were no shortcuts, no false smiles, no hidden fees buried in fine print. Just work. Honest work. Trevor stood outside near the line of cars, watching as the last of the staff filtered out into the parking lot. Kate locked the front doors. Dale limped a bit more than usual, but still cracked a joke as he waved goodnight. He knew the next few weeks would be harder. They would need to review every store in the region. Omaha was just the first. But this mattered. Because the problem hadn't been just about broken processes or bad managers. It had been about forgetting what the company was supposed to be, and now they were starting to remember. Monday began differently. The lot was quiet that morning, not because of a lack of business, but because everyone was already working. The showroom lights were on before sunrise, and the service bay echoed with the solid rhythm of real repairs underway. Nobody waited to be told what to do. They already knew. Trevor parked in the back, stepped out with a coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. His sleeves were rolled, and the name stitched on his shirt still read Tom, even though nobody called him that anymore. Inside, Clara was already behind the desk, coordinating callbacks with the new hire she'd personally helped bring on, a soft-spoken woman named Renee who had experience in both sales and customer retention. Clara had vouched for her during the interview, and so far she was proving to be sharp, patient, and immune to the kind of shortcuts that had been routine just a week ago. Trevor leaned against the counter as Clara finished a call, then motioned him over. "Some of these people are shocked we even called back. One guy said he'd written the whole dealership off after his last visit, said he felt like he was being pushed out the door." Trevor nodded. "And now, he's coming in tomorrow, wants to take another look." "Good," Trevor said. "Let me know what he thinks after." He crossed through the showroom where the energy felt grounded, measured. There was less noise now, but more movement. Sales staff weren't circling customers like hawks anymore. They were talking, listening, explaining options instead of pushing upgrades. Near the entrance, he spotted Reed reviewing financing terms with a young couple. His tone was even, his posture open. He paused often to let them ask questions. When the couple stood to leave and said they'd think about it, Reed thanked them genuinely and didn't try to block the door. Trevor caught him on his way back to the desk. "I watched that," he said. "Solid work." Reed gave a quick nod. "Still learning, trying to slow it down a little." "Keep doing that," Trevor said. "The numbers will follow." In the service bay, the pace was steady but still tight. The new techs from Des Moines had arrived the night before, and Dale was assigning tasks carefully to avoid overloading anyone. Hector was now focused on diagnostics, which played to his strengths. Tasha had taken a mentoring role without being asked, checking work, answering questions, making sure no corners got cut. Trevor pulled Dale aside near the parts counter. "You getting enough support now?" Dale scratched the back of his neck. "We're holding it together." "Still running lean, but it's manageable." Trevor looked him over. "You're limping worse than last week." "I'm fine," Dale said quickly. "Pulled something, that's all." "You're not fine," Trevor said. "You're going to see a specialist, I'll cover it, and until then you're off the lift." "You can supervise, but I don't want you wrenching anything." Dale opened his mouth to protest, then stopped. "I appreciate that," he said. Trevor nodded. "You earned it." By midday, there were 3 vehicles lined up outside for returns, each one sold under the previous regime with incomplete inspections. Trevor had expected backlash, but the customers who came in were surprisingly calm. Not happy, but calm. One man, a retired firefighter named Carl, had bought a pickup that turned out to have frame rust. He pulled up tight to the glass and walked in with a folded printout of the original listing. "I don't want to fight," Carl said. "I just want something safe." Trevor sat with him in the corner office and went over everything. They refunded his down payment, offered a replacement at cost, and gave him a loaner in the meantime. Carl stared at the paperwork, then looked up. "You know," he said, Last time I was here, they made me feel like I was interrupting something. Today feels different. That's the goal, Trevor said, back on the floor. Kate was settling into her interim general manager role with quiet force. She didn't shout, didn't rush. She asked questions others hadn't thought to ask. She walked the lot twice a day, checking tags, reading inspection sheets, catching small things before they became big ones. She caught Trevor near the vending machine. Had a sales lead today from a woman who said she'd been ignored by the last manager. She came in with her daughter and nobody would speak to her unless her husband was present. Trevor's jaw tightened. That ever happen again, I want to know immediately. Won't, Kate said. I've made it clear. As the afternoon wore on, a familiar face walked in, someone Trevor hadn't expected to see again. It was the father and teenage son who had visited the previous week, the ones Greg had dismissed bluntly. The son spotted Trevor first and nudged his father. Trevor walked over. Glad to see you again, he said. The older man gave a firm nod. He wanted to come back, I wasn't sure. What changed your mind? Someone from your office called, said you were under new leadership. Figured we'd give it one more shot. Trevor gestured toward Clara, who had just finished up with a customer. She'll take care of you. Clara approached with a calm, easy manner. She didn't ask what they could afford, she asked what they needed. The son explained he was starting college in the fall. They wanted something small, reliable, and not flashy. They left 2 hours later with a used Corolla that had passed a full inspection that morning. No forced add-ons. No pressure. That night, as the sun dipped low, Trevor stayed behind in the service bay, helping Hector organize tool carts. The air smelled of oil and fresh paint, but the tension that had once haunted the space was gone. You think it'll stay like this? Hector asked, stacking socket trays. Trevor leaned against the workbench. It won't stay unless we protect it. Standards slip when no one's watching. You'll keep watching? Every day, Trevor said. The next morning, Trevor called a regional meeting, not a video call, in person. He brought in the general managers from every dealership in the Jennings Auto Group and laid it out plainly. Omaha was a wake-up call, he said. We forgot who we were. That's on me. But it won't happen again. He introduced a new policy: mandatory third-party inspections for all certified pre-owned vehicles with random audits every quarter. He announced the creation of an internal ethics board, staffed with employees from every level: tech, sales, admin, not just managers. He handed out cards with his personal number, not a secretary, not a voicemail box, direct. If you see something wrong, he said, you call me, I don't care what store you're in. Some of the managers looked uncomfortable. Others nodded slowly, but all of them understood. Back in Omaha, things didn't get easier overnight. There were still long days, tight schedules, and customers to win back, but there was pride again. Real pride. Trevor walked the lot one evening and found Kate sitting outside on the curb eating a sandwich. He sat beside her. We're still short 2 techs, she said. But they're doing twice the work they were last month, and they're laughing more. Trevor looked across the asphalt. The last rays of daylight reflected off the windshields in neat rows. I think we're finally back in the business I started, he said. Kate took another bite. Took long enough. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the hum of a distant highway, the soft clatter of a closing service door, and the quiet satisfaction of a company finally doing the right thing.